Are you a teenager or in your early 20s and maybe you're deciding that you may potentially want to join up into the forces, in particular the army, but you're just unsure on the impact it's going to have on your life at such an early stage? Well, I've put together some pros and cons which I think would fit that category. So if that is you, then this video is all about you. How's it going, everyone, and welcome back to another video. And in this video then I'm going to be discussing 3 pros and 3 cons which I think which can you relate to joining the army at a younger age. Now, if you're not going to join the army and maybe you're going to thinking about just service in general, whether that be RAF, Navy, and pretty much worldwide military, so if you're watching this from somewhere else other than UK, this I think you can relate this to any form of service wherever it may be, specifically at a younger age. If you do fall outside of the age category, do not worry, I will be coming back with another video at looking at service or joining up at the later sort of stages of your life. So everything's good. Okay, first one then, what we're going to get into is the pros. So first pro then, pretty easy, and it's probably the biggest one, is being able to retire at an early age. So what the example I'm going to be using here is so for an example, to make it easier myself, is if you're joining at 18 years old and you do a full career and you want to commit to that and do 22 years if you're serving in the British Army, you're going to be 40 years old whenever you retire. That is, it may not seem young to you now if you're in a teenage years, but as mega young. And if you're going to go look into another career after that, that second career, you will go through that second career longer than what you spent in the 22-year military career. So that 22-year military career will come a distant memory in that second one. That is massive when you think about it on that scale. Now, when it comes to payments and stuff, you will get a little bit of payment. I cannot tell you what it is now because it fluctuates all the time. I want to stop any of the sort of old people who are going to jump in now and sort of say, yeah, the pension's rubbish. You know, the payments are, not what they used to be. Yes, they weren't what they used to be, but it's not right now in the world that we're living in right now. It wasn't the same as it was back in 2019 with all that's going on. Times change, but you will have some sort of pension and some sort of payment every month just for waking up in the morning. So that allows you then to, if you had a hobby whenever you're serving or you find this other interest, you can then potentially have the skills and the time, resources to develop that into another career, or you could just jump into a completely new career which has the structure there already provided. The fact of the matter is you're going to be early on at an age where you can crack on and do something else. So that is pro 1. Pro 2 then, opposite end of the scale. Potentially you don't want to do 22 years. Maybe you're in your mind of thinking, I just want to do 4 years, or you get in and you start serving and you go, right, I don't really think this is for me. I'm going to do the minimum amount of service, which is you serve 3 years, you sign off on your 3rd year, which has you out of service on your 4th year. If you're 18, that would mean you're getting out at 22 years old. So I'm telling you, 40 years old is flipping mega young. 22 years old is even younger. So straight away then, you can go into anything. So if you think about it, if you want to go do a trade, whether that be plumbing, electrician, that side of things, I don't know how long does it roughly take to qualify in that, about 4 years. So you're talking mid 26, 27 years old, you would then be a qualified whatever tradesperson. If you didn't want to do that, 22 years old isn't too young to jump into university. If that's what you want to do, maybe you've saved up a load of money in the service, or go to college, or do whatever you want. Whatever it is, the fact of the matter is you've went in, you've tried it, you've got loads of experiences out of it, and it's not too late. If you thought 22 years would be a blip, 4 years would just be a blip, and the second career choice in whatever you decide to choose, if you didn't like it and you got out at that age. So pro 3 then, this is a big one, and you will hear me harp on about this so many times on this channel, especially whenever I'm talking about the infantry in specific, and it is leadership. Now, the army, you will gain leadership, throughout every sort of branch within the army, but honestly, in my opinion, the most premier, whatever, high quality experience or whatever what you want to call it, of leadership is gained in the infantry, and that's just naturally due to the nature of the job and how the rank structure works, and that's where you experience that sort of you go through that sort of leadership more, I think, via the infantry. So why is that good then? Let's look at the example which I just talked about. For instance, if you're going to join and you only want to do 4 years, you've got out at 22 years old, you will have absolutely buckets more of leadership experience to what your peer group would have done. Say for instance, at 18 you've left for the army and someone in your peer group has went to uni, went to college, went to do a trade, whatever it may be. You both meet up again at 22 years old. Yes, you're now out of the army and you need to start somewhere at the start. But then that person as well, they potentially, for instance, if they went to work with, some other chain, whether it be Amazon, Tesco, whatever it may be, they're not going to be sitting in a leadership role yet. They will not have maybe experienced a leadership role yet. If someone had went to university, they may have stood up and delivered a lecture or part of a lecture to a group of people, but they haven't actually led yet. Whereas you're at the same age as them, your 4 years experience, you will have been exposed to leadership straight away, but you will be experiencing your own and working out your own leadership style from as early as 1 year from serving in the army, specifically the infantry, because you could be looking at your first shot at an NCO Carter, which is your first promotion to Lance Corporal, which is leadership. So you'll be in charge of people straight away. And if you go on operations during that time, the absolute wealth of leadership experience you will gain over your civilian counterpart is just second to none. And that is something that you always hear me saying about. If you're here on the channel, it's not on black and white on paper. You can't show it to people, but you can say where you've been, and then that confidence and that leadership will just ooze out of you, and you can use that and adapt it to any profession. 100% any flipping profession that you could think of, that will be an absolute asset to any employer, and they will naturally see that from you, and that'll get you the job and get you cruising through that job. So there we go, leadership at an early age, mega big pro. Now on to the cons. So if you've been around the channel for quite a bit, you'll know I do speak very positively, and this is probably the very first video I've made pros and cons too, because I do really enjoy it, and it's hard for me to bring out the negatives, so the cons. So this one's taken some time, but these are a few cons I think you might experience from joining at a younger age. But I may jump in and sort of counteract it because it's going to be a natural knee-jerk reaction, but I will try not to. But these are sort of 3 cons I think that you can experience. First one then is, because you're of a younger age, you might not actually know what you want. So what I mean by that is, so someone may be joining at a later age, so mid-20s, late 20s, maybe even early 30s. They will have had quite a bit of life experience behind them. They will have been able now to make the decision going, flip me, I know I should have joined back at that age. I've done X, Y, and Z. I haven't enjoyed it. I know the army is what I want. I know the service, whether it be wherever it may be, that's what I want. So straight away, they've nailed it, and now they're in, and they're on the track they wished and they knew they should have been on from the get-go. If you're of a younger age, you just naturally haven't had that experience behind your back yet, so maybe you're potentially unsure what you want. So you'll jump into the service, and then you will be more likely then to come out earlier or have a wobble because you're unsure on what you want, because that's just natural of being a young person, and just all these sort of different opportunities, all these different people waving all these different things throughout life in front of you, which will naturally then lead you to be confused. Maybe not a great con, but I found it hard to pull cons out. I was young whenever I very first joined, 17, so I'm trying to sort of base it on maybe potentially what I would have been thinking about. So that's the first one anyway. Second con then, now this is a big one because it gets asked to me quite a lot, is younger people are generally, you're sort of worried about missing out on the younger life experience. What I mean by that is, potentially if you've got your other peer groups and stuff, they're going on to college or they're going on to university, that's sort of the whole uni experience where you're going to all the sort of parties and stuff, all the theme parties, what's it called, gap years, and you're doing all the traveling and just the general stuff you'll be seeing your peer group doing. And a lot of you are worried about missing that. There's so many counters I've got to it, because I would argue that a flipping accommodation party in the army at a younger age would just outweigh any university college party with his hands tied behind his back. They're flipping absolutely unreal. And if you just think about the maddest people on the planet is people who are going through all this life of service and then multiply their parties, that's what it's going to be like. But we're not going to try and counter it too much. But the other counter then, to me, I'm just getting so excited here. The other counter I've got is, right now in this current moment, which the whole state of the whole world is in. You know, someone who's going through that process potentially, well, they're not potentially, they just aren't having the same experience, the same university, college experience to what someone was having last semester or last year. So really that sort of that sort of argument is now gone because it's not happening for anyone. So, but it could be on someone's mind worrying about not having the same experience as what a normal person would be having. Okay, third and last con. So this is a pretty big one, and I can give a lot more on this because it's something I've seen happening whenever I was in training as a young guy. And a big thing is whenever you're young, you'll establish all these sort of relationships, be it boyfriend, girlfriend, partners, whatever it may be. You've maybe went to school with each other, or you live in the same town, city, whatever it may be, and everything's so comfortable and nice, and you're scared about going apart. And many do join and try and keep these sort of relationships distance and sort of keep the fire alive as they're going through training. But I don't think I've ever heard of it working at all, because you're just going to go on a different path. Someone out here, your partner, whoever it may be, they're going to go on their own path, where they're going to go trades, college, uni, or travel, or do whatever it is, maybe not traveling right now. And then you're going to be in this sort of training regime, getting taught all these sort of new skills, and then potentially you're posting, you're going to be away from home, so you're only going to be able to travel at weekends. Definitely when you're training, you're going home at weekends is little to none, especially right now to what's going on. So that may worry some people about sort of that sort of not being able to keep them things alight and keeping a girlfriend or a boyfriend or wherever it may be. I've seen it happen whenever I was in training in Catterick when I was 17. There was a guy who had a girlfriend, and he was having a wobble in our training platoon. She didn't like him being in there because she was never seeing him and all the blah blah blah. But he ended up leaving training and getting out because he wasn't 18 yet. He was like 17, however many months, so he could get out before his 18th birthday without committing to that sort of 3-4 year contract. And he left. So we were like, okay, no dramas. And then we all went in, passed out training, went to the regiment, deployed on the very first operations and stuff, came back, and then we actually seen him coming back through the pipeline and into the battalion a couple of years later than all us. So he would have been at the same level and would have been looking at doing his sort of lance corporal, so first sort of leadership, had he just stayed in. So obviously what that had proven was the relationship had not stayed alight, and it just set him back as such in his sort of military career. It is what it is. It may be holding some people back, but I don't know. If I could give any advice, I would say that should not be something to hold you back by going anywhere. So that could be anyone. You could probably relate that to someone going to uni or someone traveling or whatever it may be. But that's probably one of the other big cons I could think of for a younger person wanting to join up and could potentially hold them up. So there we go then, a few pros and a few cons on what I think you could relate to if you're a younger person wanting to join up into service. Now I think I wasn't too biased there, and I did give sort of equal arguments for both sort of sides, but definitely if I was going to advise you, and this is someone who's sitting here at, who's going through a life of service. I joined when I was 17. Honestly, looking back, I do not have any regrets. I don't think I've missed out on anything that I should have missed out. If not, I've probably experienced a lot more. That's not me just like going, oh, the army's the best, go join the army. But that's outside of the army. So even though I was serving in the army, I've met some really rock hard friends. We've done some absolutely flipping crazy stuff, not in army time, but at the weekends and during leave, whether that be disappearing to Magaluf for days at a time or going on a holiday and doing all that sort of stuff. I don't think I would have experienced that with the same level of people hadn't joined up, and that's just it. So to me, my own opinion, I haven't missed out on anything. However, leave it down to you, your own decision. It's up to you. I hope this video has helped everyone, and if you are someone who doesn't fit in that age category, I will be bringing stuff out later on to sort of discuss on people at a later age, because even though I didn't do it, I've experienced people in my training platoon who were later of age, and currently serving. I see people who are of older ages coming in all the time. So we'll discuss a few of them different points on a future video. As always, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for joining me. To all the concurrent subscribers, if you did enjoy this and you want to see more future stuff, please consider subscribing, liking, hitting the bell icon, because it really helps out the channel, and I will see you again on the next video.